parliamentary polls in 9 years. Expats, in fact, are already casting their ballots in that long-delayed vote. It was postponed officially due to security concerns, but the campaign for next month's election is now in full swing on the streets of Lebanon. In one village in the south of the country, an independent candidate was actually attacked while he was trying to put up posters. So joining us to discuss this story and the wider issues around it is Leila Jacinto. Leila, you actually interviewed the candidate's family and did a story for France24.com. Give us more details about the attack. What exactly happened for putting up posters?
Well, this happened exactly 2 weeks before the upcoming polls. And this candidate, Ali Amin, he's Shiite. So he's a member of Lebanese Shiite community. He's a journalist. He's a very vocal anti-Hezbollah candidate, and he's independent. And his son told me, I interviewed him the day after the attack, and his son told me that volunteers had actually tried to put up posters before in this village, and they were threatened. And so the candidate himself that morning decided to go out, and as his son said, he was expressing his freedom of expression. And that's when a group of young men came and attacked him. And in a Facebook video that Ali Amin posted shortly after the incident, he said that a group of around 30 Hezbollah thugs, that's how he called them, attacked him, beat him very badly. He pointed to his teeth. He had a broken tooth, and they said they had used all sorts of implements to beat him up. Now, Ali Amin is very vocal, and he just this weekend, so 1 week before the polls, there was a big demonstration in downtown Beirut. There were a lot of Shiite intellectuals and public figures saying that, in fact, what is happening is freedom of expression is being suppressed in the south. A lot of independent Shiite candidates who are opposed to Hezbollah are being intimidated. It must be said that Hezbollah, the Lebanese Shiite movement, has denied any involvement in this attack, and they put out a statement that say that they condemn violence on the campaign trail. But I spoke to a lot of people, and nobody really finds Hezbollah's denials credible, certainly not outside their die-hard support group.
So there were protests there following that attack, but were people really surprised? It sounds like they nearly accepted it.
They did. That was striking. Even Ali's family members, and I spoke to other Shiites who are opposed to Hezbollah. Some of them did not want to go on record, and they said that this is classic techniques of how Hezbollah tries to intimidate the opposition within the Shiite community. And a lot of them talked about this word baltagia, which is the Arabic word for thugs. This seems to be how they operate. Now, what's happening is that Hezbollah, of course, sees itself as the voice of the Shiite people. You know, they are the voice of the resistance against the Israelis. The Israelis pulled out of southern Lebanon in 1999. And so they really see themselves as representing the Shiite people. So any sort of opposition from the Shiite community, Hezbollah really sees it as an affront to its popularity. Not only Hezbollah, but there is an allied Shiite party, Amal. And this, you know, Hezbollah came out of the 90s incredibly popular for standing up against the Israelis. But along the way, its popularity has risen and fallen with the times. And you have to read the piece on the website, because I trace Hezbollah's, rising and falling popularity. But what's happening right now, a lot of analysts say, is that the war in Syria across the border is adding a new twist to the campaign. Basically, a lot of Shiites are not happy with what Hezbollah is doing in Syria, because Hezbollah fighters are supporting Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's regime. And so there is a level of dissatisfaction within this core voter base of Hezbollah, which they are not really happy about.
Indeed, it sounds like this war in Syria then could actually play a part in the elections in Lebanon, the first elections in 9 years.
It's very tricky, but actually, no, the war in Syria is not playing a part in the Lebanese election. Well, I mean, the best way to... The Sunnis, of course, are not happy with Hezbollah involvement in the war. But that doesn't affect Hezbollah on the polls, because the Sunnis are not their voter base. Now, among Shiites, the best way to describe it is what one of the people in the village told me. They call it the Shiite malaise. So there are the die-hard Shiite Hezbollah supporters. Then there are some who will vote for Hezbollah even though they don't like them. And when you have a discussion with them, this gentleman told me, that they will say, yes, you're right, what they are doing in Syria is not right. But at the end of the day, Hezbollah will provide for our interests, and they will, they are the ones who will protect us. Because the Lebanese have this antiquated confessional system where power is distributed between the religious communities. And the Shiites have been historically marginalized and oppressed. And after the civil war, it was Hezbollah that really fought the Shiite resistance. So they are kind of afraid that if they don't support Hezbollah, they could lose the gains that they have made. And
really
it must
voting
be
against themselves
exactly.
in a certain way.
And we have just 1 week to go before the elections. And what is really remarkable among the candidates is that they don't seem to be fighting this campaign based on any ideology. There are all sorts of alliances between people who are opposed to each other ideologically.
But going back to those traditional roots.
But they are just vested in getting into parliament. So this seems to be a campaign that's really not being fought on issues or platforms, but just on candidates getting into parliament.
Bread and butter issues. Well, it will be a fascinating one to watch, Leela, and I know you're going out there tomorrow for us to follow those elections. In the meantime, of course, I do recommend reading your article on our website, france24.com. Leela,